Let's go.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Halftime Adjustments. I have my best friend in front of me. It's Colton and Derric today. No Luis Barraza today, but we are holding down the fort and we are going to bring you a bunch of trade news. We got a lot to talk about with all these trades going on. The trade deadline happened today and it was insane. So we got news, we got trades, we got waivers, and we got our King of the Hill segment. It is November 1st, and it is a lovely day to start. So let's go off of the news first, and we're gonna mention one that we didn't hit because it happened late last week, and it's Jamar Chase going down. Jamar Chase will be out for about 4 weeks. I think.
Yeah, 4 to 6, they're saying.
4 to 6 weeks with a hip injury, but he did not go on IR, which is
thank goodness.
Good thing.
Yeah.
One of those things to keep an eye on for is they probably didn't put him on IR because he's so valuable player. They don't want to make the room for him. So, I mean, yeah, it's rough, and we saw this last week that they really needed Chase on that team with the way they lost against the Browns.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I saw a meme, and it was like, Joe Burrow without 3 all-pro wide receivers, and it was Andy Dalton. And it's like, if this guy doesn't have 3 amazing wideouts, he just turns into sort of a bum. They only put up 13 points last night.
Yeah, that's rough.
Rough night.
It's surprising, honestly, because, I mean, if it is Jamar Chase that Joe Burrow needs on his team, then, I mean, that's kind of crazy because he has 2 really good wideouts on that team still.
Yeah, these guys could be wide receiver ones on other people's rosters for sure. T. Higgins is no slouch, and Tyler Boyd has proven to be a very valuable number 2. So you didn't think that would take that big of a step backwards, but everybody's been saying all year long, they found a way to stop Chase. They found a way to minimize him. All they've done is damn near triple teamed him all year. Mm-hmm. So when you take that threat away, it really, and I've said this all year with as a Chase owner, he really has let me down pretty much from where I thought I was going to get from him. The first 3, maybe 4 games was a huge letdown. But I kept telling everybody, it's because they're putting so much focus on him. If you take him away, watch how bad the rest of the team becomes, and now you're seeing it. This team, without Chase, they're able to say, okay, beat us another way. Now you don't have him. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, the Browns figured it out. They won last night. But, yeah, it did not look good for Joe Burrow.
What do you think their record becomes during his departure?
If he's out for 4 weeks, so he already lost 1 game. If he's out for a minimum of 4 weeks, I feel like they lose 2 of those games.
So you give them 2, you think they split down the middle. So This week they just played Cleveland. They have Carolina.
I think they win that game easily.
Then they have a bye week, which really helps.
Oh, that does help, yeah.
Then Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, that should be an easy win, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So.
And then Tennessee, another one that if you just stop Derrick Henry, should be an easy win.
Right, yeah. I think the Tennessee one is a little questionable, but I feel like they might lose. I feel like they win against the Steelers and against Carolina.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I could see if Chase misses against Tennessee, I think they could probably lose.
Interesting.
But let's move on. Cooper Kupp is in the injury report news, which sucks because I have him on my team, and it was like one of the last plays of garbage time. It sucked to see him get injured with this ankle injury. It's not severe though, which is great. It's a sprained ankle, but he's looking like he will play against Tampa Bay, so that's good news. I mean, it could have been one of those injuries like Dak had, where he just because the defender was literally falling on him. Yeah. It was one of those injuries. It looked like, and so they literally
just hold your breath.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And so it was on one of the last plays of the game. It was just very scary.
Yeah, no good.
But yeah, it's looking like he'll play because if he doesn't play, I feel like the Rams lose like every single game.
Yeah, he's been the only saving grace for that roster. If he's out, they have nothing.
Yeah, they literally don't, and they didn't trade for anything either.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they have to give away.
Yeah,
2028 round picks.
Yeah, they don't have anything to give out. Moving on, Rashad Bateman, he will be out for a few weeks with a foot injury. This is not that great for Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has been better with Bateman out there.
Yeah, he's been a good weapon for him.
Yeah,
they've found a really good connection through the beginning of the season, and he has not been able to stay healthy all year long.
Yeah.
This has been a big issue for him.
Yeah, it's rough because we were so high on Rashad Bateman going into the season because he was like they moved Hollywood out of there. It was his year to go off.
He's young enough to do it. I had him at like a top 20 wide receiver this season. I had him really high.
Yeah.
But man, he's been just a letdown.
Yeah, he's been a letdown. He's also been injured quite frequently. But on that same team, Mark Andrews is also injured with shoulder and ankle injuries. So he's
Oh my gosh.
he's not doing good either. He's day to day. It's rough because they'll play him. That's the problem. They will play him, and you have to start Mark Andrews. Like who else are you going to start at tight end? Really?
Sure, especially if you spend draft capital to get Mark Andrews.
Exactly. So it's one of those situations where Mark Andrews is. You spent up so much, so you have to play him, but he's injured, so he's going to be limited. So he's going to give you maybe, hopefully, a touchdown to save you.
Yeah.
But
8 fantasy points somewhere on there.
It's one of those things where he could either get you a touchdown to save you right now, or 0 points.
I don't know if he's getting you 25 like you're used to seeing.
Right now he's not in a situation where he can get you like a crazy amount of points. But yeah, just monitor that. He's day to day, so hopefully he'll get a miracle happens and he'll
no kidding
he'll get those injuries off of him. Moving on, Adam Thielen, he's got a knee bruise. He is day to day as well. This isn't good for Adam Thielen because he's up there in age. So it's one of those situations where he's going to get injured from pretty much anything. Feels like
truly happens every year.
But this is better for their new weapon over there, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And it's also better for Justin Jefferson as well.
By the way, I saw a crazy stat on Justin Jefferson's production and how good he has been, but how much he struggled this year so far. It's kind of crazy. You wouldn't necessarily know it based off of some of the games he's had, but he hasn't had a touchdown since week 1.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, you go through his points, like week
That's
4,
true.
he had 31, week 5, he had 30, week 6, 16, still putting up great numbers, but he doesn't have a receiving touchdown since week 1.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts, right? So
he hasn't had a receiving touchdown since week 1. He hasn't had a touchdown in general since week 4.
Yeah, nuts.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And he had 2 touchdowns week 1. That's one of those things where it was like the Darren Waller it was like the way Darren Waller started last year, where Waller was like badass and he had all these receiving yards, and he started out looking great, and you were so happy you got Darren Waller, but then he fell off. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is doing way better than Darren Waller did last year, but he needs those touchdowns, I feel like, and hopefully he gets one against Washington this week.
Honestly,
they just got rid of one of their best corners, so And if Adam Thielen's out, you're guaranteed. You should be guaranteed a touchdown there.
For real. If he doesn't manage it in this week, my goodness. Wait, is it a primetime game or do they have a 12 o'clock game?
No, it's 12 o'clock. So thank goodness.
Kirk Cousins has a chance to throw him a touchdown.
Kirk Cousins in primetime is terrible. DeAndre Swift is still dealing with that shoulder injury. In a way, they're saying that he came out actually and said that he's still not 100%, but in that game that he played this last week, but he's getting better slowly but surely. It's one of those situations where he was he's been injured since week 4 with this injury.
Yeah.
And, like, if it's not getting any better, like, that's a real concern, because, like, if it's like he had 2 weeks to recover, a bye, and then another game after that to recover, and he's still not 100%. It's one of those things where, like, man, is Jamal Williams the guy to start right now?
He absolutely is.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You can't really trust DeAndre Swift right now, especially with these injuries that he has. But
so I have a pretty fun question for you. So let's say DeAndre Swift doesn't come back till week 11. He takes 2 more weeks off, okay, to get himself fully healthy. Week 11, he comes back and he says, "Yep, I'm good."
Right.
Okay? He does average for you around, we'll say, in the ballpark of 10 to 15 fantasy points on a weekly basis. Sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 24 through the rest of the season.
Right.
And through the rest of the year, he's a top 15 running back. Are you keeping him on your roster if you're in a keeper league, or is it time to move on from him? Like, are you keeping this headache for a multi-year investment?
It's one of those situations where, like, if you trade him, who are you going to trade him for? Because I feel like maybe you can trade him for... So let me ask you this question. Would you trade him for Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I think I would.
You would take Taylor for him?
Yeah, because although Taylor's had some, like, injury concerns this year...
It hasn't been on this level. He's only missed 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, and he doesn't miss, like, every single year. Jonathan Taylor's still 23. He does have one of the better offensive lines if they can find themselves. So I think, I'd make that deal and just hope that they'd have such a bad year this year that they get a new quarterback.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, it's hard not to trade him away. But I understand, like, we had a trade with DeAndre Swift and Najee Harris in our league.
Yeah.
I think that's really even, because Najee Harris hasn't done much either.
He's had a terrible season. Yeah. They're both, one has immense talent and just can't stay healthy. The other one is an okay player. He'll stay healthy for you, but he's not going to get you. Like, the only reason he was good last year and it was unsustainable is because Big Ben was throwing him 15 targets a game and he caught 10 of them. Like,
and keep in mind, Big Ben can throw far at all, so that's another reason why
dumped it down every single game to him. So I mean, his production level has fallen off a cliff. So I actually agree with you. It's a very fair, like, trade right now is Najee Harris for DeAndre Swift. I don't know which one. I don't know which side of that coin I'd want, to be honest.
I don't either. I wouldn't, honestly. I don't think I would want any of those guys.
Yeah,
to be honest.
They both sound like bad keepers. If I'm in the position, I would not be keeping Swift into multiple years. I'd let him go into the market and hope that someone picks him up in the first round next year, so that it's not my headache. It's someone else's.
It's rough because he had a similar. He didn't have a similar injury, but he had, like, a similar time missed so far. From what I can see. Yeah. So he's already missed 4 weeks. I mean, if this injury lingers anymore, he could miss more time.
And he's 23. Like, it's not like age makes this better.
Yeah.
Your youth is what you write on here. He's just an injury-prone guy.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about Mark Ingram. He has an MCL sprain. He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. This is great news for Alvin Kamara owners.
Big time.
Alvin Kamara this past week, they finally got him involved in the passing game.
In the biggest way.
Ridiculous. But Mark Ingram not being there is going to make Alvin Kamara just all the better. So
I'm glad they finally let him operate in some space. But, Mark Ingram being down, I wonder who they're going to have step up and be that secondary punch, because that's what Ingram was. He was really good at coming in and punishing the defense when Kamara was out.
Right.
Kamara likes to operate in space. He likes to get the ball and run to the sideline or run up the middle of the field, but he doesn't like to initiate that contact. He tried doing it in the early season and hurt his ribs. So that's when they, kind of that thunder and lightning we talk about with Zeke and Pollard. It's very similar here. Mark Ingram was that bowling ball who just came in and pounded the defensive line and linebackers. So who's that new guy for you to be that thunder and lightning?
Let's talk about Zeke and Pollard real quick. I actually want to talk about these guys because Ezekiel Elliott's out. I mean, they're going on to their bye week right now, so it's not really much to talk about, but he missed this week. Pollard looked fantastic. he looked way better than Zeke did. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, are they just playing Zeke because of the money that's involved with Zeke?
Yeah, truly.
Okay, well, that sucks, I feel like. That's stupid. Like, Pollard he looks by far the more explosive player than Ezekiel Elliott right now.
So they actually asked, I listened to the interview this morning on 105 Through the Fan with Jerry Jones, and they have a weekly Tuesday meeting. So they asked about that. They asked, what about Pollard and Zeke right now? Do you feel that Pollard is the better running back when you compare these two on a season and what they're able to accomplish? And he said no. He said Jerry Jones does not see these guys. He said they have different run styles, so it's hard to compare one better than the other, but he sees them as equals. Now, one of them had 134 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the other one has maybe 3 touchdowns on the whole season.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know how you can look at this and say we need to split the carry still. Pollard just proved to you that he is. This is what this reminds me of, and I think this is the perfect comp. Let me know if you think I'm off.
I already know who you're talking about. I already know who you're going to talk about.
Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler.
Oh, close. I was going to say Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon.
No, see, because we've seen this play out before. Because Melvin Gordon was the guy with the Chargers. And he had Zeke's same style of little downhill running, and Austin Eckler was that shifty guy, but he had some injuries behind him, and everybody thought he's too small to handle the workload of a full season. Since doing so, he's done nothing but be explosive and handle the workload in a phenomenal way.
Right.
And now you have the same thing where Zeke's the guy, but he's starting to slow down. The injuries are catching up. His body is not as explosive as he used to be. Those hits are starting to take a toll on his body. Well, you have a young stud who was Eckler, now it's Pollard.
Yeah.
It's time to the changing of the guard is here, but Jerry Jones is too stubborn to see it, in my opinion.
I can see that too. That's a good comp, I think. But what happened with Melvin Gordon? They traded him, didn't they?
They traded him to the Broncos.
They traded
him
away.
And he fell off.
Yeah, and he fell off. So is this what we're going to see with Zeke maybe in the next couple of years? Because I think that that's a great comparison because I feel like I could see that happening with Ezekiel Elliott, where Tony Pollard is the Austin Eckler of the Cowboys. So
yeah, it's his time to shine. He's young enough. He's 25. Zeke's 27, going on 28 now. He's getting up there in age. Running backs pretty much expire around 29, 30 years old. He has clearly lost a step. This is the second year in a row he's picked up an injury where he's had to miss time. He didn't miss time last year, but he was completely ineffective in the second half of the season.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is Zeke is my favorite player in the NFL. And I say this as a total Zeke lover. I think he's phenomenal. His highlights in his first few years as a Dallas Cowboy, I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
I think as a team, I'm ready to move on from Zeke. We just saw what Pollard's capable of.
Right.
Let's see if he can do it for a season. If not, go draft Bijan Robinson and go do it all over again. But, it's very clear that Zeke has lost the step, and all he is a bruiser. Okay, make him Melvin Ingram then.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Mark Ingram.
Yeah, Mark Ingram.
Go make him Mark Ingram and let Pollard take most of the workload and have spells of Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How many more years does he have on his contract?
We can get out this year.
Okay.
This offseason is this is when you can push the eject button. I think we have 2 more years in his deal, but this is the first year of his deal where we can take the out and you don't take a massive cap hit.
Okay.
In previous years, we would have taken a $30 million hit. Now you're taking, I think it's $4 million or something that you take as a cap hit this season.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to take that hit. And there's also been rumors that Zeke is willing to renegotiate his deal down to a more palatable number so that you can keep him on your roster and not be forced to pull that trigger. So if he goes down to, he's making $16 million a year. If he goes down to 4, I think more reasonably he goes down to 8. I still don't like him at 8.
Yeah, that's a lot still.
Because we have to pay Pollard. This is Pollard's last year. He's a free agent. So you have to make the decision here. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's either Pollard or Zeke.
Yeah.
I get that, yeah. So, but if they do intend on, trading Zeke in a way or, shipping him somewhere else, is there anywhere else where he would be successful, or is this just the demise, of his career where he's kind of like a Melvin Gordon and falling off?
I just don't know that there's much more he can do with his body. It sucks because, I love Zeke so much, but, We put him through like 320 touches a year for his first 3 seasons when a running back should be getting like no more than 260.
Yeah.
We just tore his body to shreds. You got to think that's an entire extra season we put on his body over those 3 years.
Right.
His knees are starting to wear down on him. You're starting to see issues with his, mainly his knees. He had a PCL injury last season, and now he has an MCL injury this season.
Yeah.
So, the guy, that's what you need your running back to have strong. If he needs to have strong anything, it's strong legs. Well, his knees are deteriorating on him because of all the hits he's taken. I don't see him having any success down the road. I think it's just the demise of Zeke. Unfortunately, we did it. We have ourselves to blame.
Yeah, no, we did. We did do it. I think if Pollard if we were in the next draft, if Pollard was the lone guy back there, I think he would be like a top 10 play easily.
For sure. You just saw what he's capable of. This line's clearly good enough to where if you have an explosive running back, they can make some noise.
Yeah.
It's just we don't have an explosive running back. And they're Jerry Jones literally said it this morning, we move as Zeke moves.
Yeah.
When you say something like that, you move like a fucking turtle. That's how you move.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. And we need to start talking about all of these trades that went down today. Today at 4 p.m. 3 p.m.?
3 p.m. Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern.
No, I'm sorry. No, it was 4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Eastern. It was the trade deadline. And there were so many things that happened. So many people that were shipped off. Mm. So the main one first I want to talk about is T.J. Hawkinson. This is a crazy one.
I think the deal of the day is this one, right?
T.J. Hawkinson
big one.
To the Vikings. So if they don't play, I don't know if he'll play this week, but I feel like he's going to be dominant over here. I feel like he's going to be a lot better because of the way they utilize. I mean, they haven't utilized Irv Smith at all, but I feel like just having somebody like T.J. Hawkinson on that team, I feel like he can bring so much to this team, as an offensive person.
What this shows me is the Vikings want to utilize the tight end, and Irv Smith hasn't been in a position to utilize. When you specifically go out and trade for a tight end, it's because you're not getting production at the position, so they want to up their production at said position. They went out and targeted a guy who they know has a high ceiling. He was a first-round pick just a few years ago.
Yep.
He has a bit of an injury concern. He had some back issues for a few years there, and I think he may have had some injuries this year too. Mm-hmm. But overall, he's still a high-level talent. I think they want to have that safety net for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And they just went and found their guy. And they didn't pay too much to go get him.
They really didn't. They didn't give any players. They literally, it was just a second rounder for 2023.
Yeah.
And a third rounder for 2024. So, I mean, honestly, they really didn't spend up that much, to be honest, to get him. I mean, Hawkins was an eighth overall pick.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy how, when you think about it, he's only 25. Yeah. So Travis Kelce's 33 right now, to put it into perspective. If he turns out to be the guy that they thought he was, right? Yeah. You just got 10, we'll call it 8 more years of elite production if he turns out to be in that category of elite player. Right. So, I like the move. I think it's a phenomenal move. I think we just saw what he can do. He kind of hit the Dallas Cowboys pretty hard. Yeah. And we've seen what he can do in the past when he had that crazy 3-touchdown game. So, this is great. I think it's a great move all the way around for the Vikings. They are a contending team this year.
They really are.
In the NFC, where pretty much it's the Wild West right now. There is not a team except for the Eagles that have a foothold on the NFC to make it. So, why not go all in, right? Yeah. This is the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. For the other side of that coin, I feel like the Detroit Lions are going to miss him, but I feel like their offensive weapons might benefit a little bit more from all of these targets just getting spread out.
Yeah, vacated targets.
If they get their third receiver back, then I think most of them will go to him. But I mean, they don't really have anybody else stealing targets that much. So now I think Amon-Ra benefits. I think Reynolds benefits a little bit, and I even think like DeAndre Swift benefits a little bit too, because if he can stay healthy, I think he can benefit from this as well. because they like to dump him the ball a little bit, like right where Hawkinson lives. So I think this could benefit the offensive side, but overall, I feel like they will miss Hawkinson.
You know what? I think what this did is this put the final nail in the Jared Goff coffin. Mm-hmm. I think what they just did is solidified their record of they're already 1-6.
Yeah.
They have the first overall pick. You have 2 viable top-end quarterbacks coming up in this year's draft, Stroud and Bryce Young.
Yeah.
2 top guys that you can go say, all right, time to go. And you have the Tennessee quarterback who's gone 7-1 so far, or 7-0, who's looked phenomenal. There are a lot of elite quarterbacks this year, and I think what they did is said, you know what? Screw it. Let's go get a second and a third. We're going to build around. We can go get a tight end in the second round if we need to. Yeah. If that's the last piece we feel we're missing. But we're going to have a top-end pick for a quarterback next season. We don't need a tight end right now. We need the picks. Yeah. They're in a rebuild mode.
And it's so crazy that they're in a rebuild too, because their offense is so great. I feel like if anything, they need to go for like a defensive person, because like their offense feels phenomenal to me. Like
truly,
it feels like they're like all they're missing is like a really good defense. Like I don't know, maybe they did this to solidify a great defensive player in the draft, but I don't know. I could see your point with them shipping out Jared Goff.
I just think
somebody else.
The most important position in the entire football league is your quarterback,
right?
And they're in a spot where I don't think you can pass up, because they just went and got Aiden Hutchinson. He's a rookie.
That's true. Yeah.
So if Hutch turns out to be what they think he is, well then boom, you have that elite defense production. Hopefully it starts to come for you. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Okuda has started to step up a little bit. I think he was the 3rd overall pick a few years back. So Blake Martinez has started. Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Hopefully he starts to step up as well. So they got some studs on there.
Yeah, they do. All right, moving on. I want to talk about Chase Claypool going to the Bears. This is another crazy trade. Chase Claypool. I mean. He was rumored all week this week. The Steelers really wanted something for Chase Claypool. They wanted a second round pick, and they really got it. I mean, yeah, Chase Claypool to the Bears. I think this makes the Bears slightly better. I think it's bad for Darnell Mooney a little bit, because now I feel like Claypool is going to be the clear cut wide receiver 1 out there.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually better for this should be better for Pickens over there in the Steelers side. Deontay Johnson, he hasn't been what we thought he was going to be, but maybe this boosts him up a little bit. But they really need some quarterback play over there with the Steelers, because it's not happening right now.
Hasn't been what they thought they were going to get out of him. But, they have a lot of holes on that team right now. The only guy who's played like he's worth anything is Minka Fitzpatrick on the defense.
Yeah.
So
literally.
yeah, they have a lot of holes they have to fix on that team right now. And I do think you're right. Pickens is probably the biggest benefactor of this team, besides maybe Justin Fields. But I don't really know what they need to get done to make this team better. It feels like they are at like rock bottom right now when it comes to rebuilding. Big Ben was keeping it together, but man.
And you can't draft like a quarterback, because they literally just got a quarterback. I feel like
it's been a first round pick on him.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations where like, what do they need to do? So, I mean, they just need to get their guys, like, ready to go, I guess, maybe. Maybe they need some more practice out there.
Yeah, they're a little stuck. They have a high pick this year. They currently they have the 4th pick overall in this year's draft. If it just continues to be a dumpster fire and Kenny Pickett shows 0 signs of improvement, maybe it is okay, we need to pull the ripcord on this, because CJ Stroud is staring at us at the 3rd spot. Let's say they move up.
Yeah.
And, CJ Stroud's at 3. That is a premium Ohio State quarterback who is shown to have nothing but all the tangibles. We're going to rock with him. and rebuild around him, or are we going to go with Kenny Smallhands and get a premier offensive lineman in this year's draft?
Yeah.
Or the top defensive end in this year's draft and pair him with TJ Watt? There's a lot that could happen here, and you got to remember they are still missing Watt, so that may be part of why they look so bad. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. This trade I think really hurts. This hurts. Yeah. Like you said, Mooney, but I think it helps people like Pickens and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Yep. All right, moving on. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk about Bradley Chubb. This is a big one. I think this significantly drops the Broncos' defensive unit as a whole. And maybe that'll boost Russell Wilson a little bit because he's going to have to come back. I don't know. I mean, I'm honestly, at this point, I'm just trying to find some glimmer of light for Russell Wilson at this point for this year. But yeah, Broncos losing Bradley Chubb is a big one. I feel like it's probably one of the biggest ones that has happened.
Yeah,
but
he was a premier pass rusher at only 26 years old too. They got rid of a young stud. You know what? I think they couldn't afford him.
Yeah, they probably couldn't have afforded him. But he's going to the Dolphins now. I think the Dolphins could be a really good addition for Bradley Chubb over there. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes the Dolphins a little bit scarier as a team. I don't think it makes them better than the Bills, but I feel like the Dolphins have a better defensive unit now with Bradley Chubb over there for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. And, it kind of hurts the Dolphins because this was the only first-round pick they had because they forfeited theirs in the whole – coaching issue thing that they had going on and collusion and I don't know what they would do, tampering. So they now are no first round picks in next year's draft. So this kind of hurts them a little bit. This was an all in move on their end, but still I think it's a great move. This was an awesome move on their end, and then they got Jeff Wilson for basically nothing. So they fixed their run game, and great move. I think when you're this close, they're on the cusp of being a great team, and you have young talent all around you. Push your chips to the middle because over the next few years they can become one of the premier teams in the NFL. Yeah, with all these young studs they're building on.
Yeah, I mean they have Tyreek Hill over there, Jalen Waddle over there, and now Jeff Wilson, and now Bradley Chubb. These are some pretty big names on one team.
Yeah, and then you have Tua, he's young. Tua is young. Yeah. So I mean, they have some great guys. They've rebuilt that offensive line too. Yeah. They have some young offensive linemen who are showing up over the past 3 years. So. Yeah, really good moves by them.
Yeah, like a few years ago, the Dolphins didn't have any names, and now they have a crazy number of well-known names.
They were the laughing stock of the NFL, and now you look at them and you're like, Jesus, they're going to drop 35 on me and get 3 sacks.
Yeah, so, Dolphins looking great. Next one to talk about, I want to talk about, we already talked about Chase Edmonds a little bit, but I want to talk about Roquan Smith from the Bears to the Ravens. Defensively, I think the Ravens needed this because the Ravens have not been the defense that we are used to seeing, which is an all-out great defense. So the Ravens have kind of taken a hit on that side of the field. But Roquan Smith is definitely somebody that makes a whole team way better because just his presence on the field just makes like any offense look like children out there.
I actually really, really like this move. They traded for him. Because the Bears knew they had to pay him. He's 25. Yeah. So they traded, understanding that they were going to have to, pay him, and they just got rid of Robert Quinn, who was their defensive end, and so you sort of filled a hole there with a versatile linebacker defensive end, sort of like Micah Parsons and TJ Watt can do. He can do the same thing. Right. He has the most tackles of anybody in the NFL this season. Yes. He plays Ravens football. Yep. He's a Ray Lewis-style linebacker who runs all over the field and doesn't miss a tackle. So I think they traded for one of the premier linebackers in the NFL who is young. He is a centerpiece you can build upon with Patrick Queen. Now you have 2 linebackers who are insanely versatile. Patrick Queen plays more of a safety linebacker role, so now you have guys who can go up and down the center of that field and patrol. I think it's an awesome move.
Would you rather take a a linebacker shot from Ray Lewis or Roquan Smith?
Oh, Roquan Smith all day. Yeah, Roquan Smith. I saw that they did some test years ago on Ray Lewis in his prime, and they put like a pad on a door to measure force, and he has the force of like 6 battering rams. is what they like equated a Ray Lewis hit to off of the pressure that they put on the door. So yeah, I don't think even Ray Lewis at this age, I don't want to take a hit from that guy.
Oh man. All right, let's move back to the offense. We missed this one last week, but Kadarius Toney, he is on the Chiefs now from the Giants. I'm really surprised that the Giants didn't make a move for anybody to get a wide receiver on their team.
Me either.
And like losing Kadarius Toney now, that makes their whole room a lot smaller for wide receivers. And it's one of those things where, are they going to bring back Galladay? Is Galladay going to be the answer?
You basically lost him to injury and just being completely out on the season. You lost Sterling Shepard for pretty much the season.
Done, yeah.
You just lost Toney. You lost Evan Ingram in the offseason.
It's Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, what do you have? You have 2 guys. You have Saquon Barkley, who plays running back, wide receiver, punter, kicker. You name it, quarterback. Yeah. He plays everything for you. And like you said, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's about to get 20 targets a game. Let him feast.
I mean, literally, they don't. I mean, David Sills, that's it. I mean, that's like
you're
the
digging,
only
like you said, you're digging at the bottom of the barrel right now. Like that's where they are as a team.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is that they can't. They're doing good. Like they're what are they 6-2 right now? They're 6-2. So I mean, they're not going to get that high of a draft pick next year, and so it's one of those situations where like they're kind of they should have traded for somebody this year. They should have got somebody, but they didn't, and now they're one more wide receiver short with Kadarius Toney going to the Chiefs. I think Kadarius Toney could be great over here.
Truly,
with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball, I think I think he's a smash play. I feel like he could start to become that. I don't want to say Tyreek Hill factor, but he could be something similar. He's obviously not
Tyreek-esque.
as fast. Yeah, he's obviously not as fast as Hill, but I mean, he could.
But he can move in space very well. We saw it at New York when he got the ball. He was able to work in the open space very well, which is what a lot of people said Tyreek Hill can do. So I think he may not have that top end speed the same way that Hill had. He's not the cheetah.
Yeah.
But maybe he's like a mountain lion. He can he can still be quick, just not that quick. Yeah, something. So
Lynx cat.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. We'll see. So I also agree. Just to touch on what you said about the Giants.
Siamese cat?
No, they're not fast enough. With the Giants, I'm actually, and I wonder if Luis has the same level of frustration right now as I do as a Cowboys fan, because you saw the true contenders in the NFC notice the vacant hole of the heavy hitters not being there at the moment. You don't have Tampa, who's normally a heavy hitter. You don't have the Rams, who everybody thought was going to be a heavy hitter this season.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys right now who, are missing. Seattle is one of those players that everybody, you just expect them to be there. They're floundering at the moment. They're looking okay with Geno Smith, but they're not what you thought they were going to be.
Right.
So I don't know. All this to be said, the NFC is wide open. It's wide open.
It is.
The Cardinals are low. The Packers look abysmal. The Bucks, the Saints, they all look terrible. All the teams that you're like, heavy hitter time, they're all gone. So you saw the Vikings improve. You saw the Eagles improve. You saw the 49ers make a move for Christian McCaffrey.
They look good over there with him now.
Yeah.
I mean, they look good with him.
They look so good. So you saw people who saw the vacancy take advantage of that. And then you saw the Cowboys and the Giants stay stagnant. They said, what we have is good enough. Everybody else got better.
Yeah, everybody else
The people
did
who were true contenders got better, and you stood and did nothing.
Yep.
You didn't get Brandon Cooks. You didn't go get a wide receiver that you needed. He was readily available. You didn't go after any of these other guys who were readily available. I mean, what are we doing right now? If the Cowboys lose this season, when all of the Tom Brady's and Aaron Rodgers and, you're not seeing people like the Saints in the playoffs, man, if this is the year that you had and you end up losing to somebody like Philadelphia who went out and got Quinn and they went out and got all these amazing players they went, and found. It's just going to be so frustrating.
It's gut wrenching because they made all these moves like the last 2 years when all these other teams were good, and now they're bad, and now we're not making these moves.
It's ship off Cooper. I mean, it's just, man, it's going to be rough. So I know as a Giants fan, people probably have to be frustrated to also have the year where they're 6-2. This has been the best season they've had since the early 2000s to start a season, and you go, what the hell? We just shipped off wide receivers. We have a guy who won't play. Why didn't you go out and get someone? To your point, we have a low first-round pick. Go trade it away for a stud wide receiver and try to make a move.
Right.
But nope, we sat on our hands again and did nothing. Cowboys and Giants.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We talked about Chase Edmonds already going to the Broncos from the Dolphins. But let's go a little bit into this. Does this do anything for Chase Edmonds and Melvin Gordon on the Broncos side? I don't think so. Do you think so?
Not really. Not really, no. I think they were looking for a body because, you know what I think it was? I think they just found out the extent of how bad Javonte Williams' injury is, and they recognized they might not even have him for next year.
Yeah, so that's one thing you have to keep monitoring because he might not be able to play till 2 years from now.
Absolutely. That's a huge concern that you have with a guy who tore the hamstring off of the bone. Like, Jesus, make it sound like a turkey leg that you cooked for the perfect amount of time. I mean, it's just, that's a guy I really worry if he may ever play in the NFL to that level again. So, Melvin Gordon's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah. I was surprised he didn't get traded.
Honestly, I thought he was the prime guy to be traded over there, but I think it's a security blanket is all they went and got. That's it.
Moving on, let's go to Jeff Wilson going to the Dolphins. Oh my gosh, this Dolphins backfield looks like the 49ers backfield from 2 years ago. They have Jeff Wilson over there, and they have Raheem Mostert now.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeff Wilson is great, and I think he will be good on the Dolphins, but I mean, it's going to be a committee. Like they have Raheem Mostert over there. It's going to be it's going to look like a committee over there. So
I couldn't disagree more. I think Jeff Wilson is about to explode.
Oh, really?
I think he's going to do so good over there. I think
that.
Yeah, if I'm anyone right now who's looking for a running back, go make a trade for Jeff Wilson. I really like him in this offense. I also like him because he's from UNT, so he's a local.
Okay.
He's local.
Yeah, he's local. Yeah.
But you saw what he did with his opportunity over in the 49ers, and I think it's a very similar situation where you have wide receivers. They literally cannot stack the box when you have Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
The opportunity will be there in the middle, and I think with the Mostert injuries, he'll be the only reliable running back. I think he's about to feast. Truly, I think it's going to be a really, really good move for him.
Okay, I like your take, but I'm still going to say that it's going to be a committee.
We'll see.
But he definitely has the opportunity over there for sure. All right, moving on. This is a big one. Calvin Ridley is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is suspended until the end of this year. I think he'll be good to go next year, right?
Yeah, he's good next season.
I think this is a really good deal for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it makes Trevor Lawrence better. I think it makes their team better for next year. I just think that seeing Calvin Ridley going over there, he's going to be special over there.
Yeah, and I mean it helps that they currently are 2-6, so you're thinking they're going to have a really, really high pick next year. So you don't care that he's not around this year. It doesn't matter. He's 28. He's going into his prime years. He'll be 28 in December. So, he has a year off of football. Hopefully he comes back. His mental health was a big thing last year. Hopefully his mental health comes back good. But if he comes back right, you could get a premier wide receiver at a massive, massive discount to pair up with whoever you get in the draft. Whether that be another offensive lineman, one of the elite defensive players. This team could get really good next year and be really scary if Trevor Lawrence can find it and be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a top 10 wide receiver back in the day. And so if this is a great deal for the Jacksonville Jaguars if he can come back just like he was whenever he was a top 10 wide receiver with Matt Ryan over there.
Yeah, minimal risk, very, very high reward. You may have found your wide receiver 1 and you didn't even pay a first-round pick for him. Yeah, sign me up. I'm very happy if I'm a Jacksonville fan right now.
All right, let's move on. This is a wide receiver swap. Naheem Hines goes to the Bills, and Zach Moss goes to the Colts.
You mean running back swap?
Running back swap. Man, I can never get those right.
Honestly, yeah.
I always mix those two up. Naheem Hines going into the Bills. I think Naheem Hines is a slightly better running back than Zach Moss right now, but I feel like this doesn't really do much. I mean, this is just kind of a backup move. I think if they move, it's one of those things where I feel like if they move Naheem Hines up over Devin Singletary, which I don't think that they will do, I feel like this is a ripoff for Devin Singletary because he's
done nothing
so
but great.
Good.
Yeah,
he is so good on that team.
He's shown it.
And so, like, I feel like they are just ripping Devin Singletary off.
I don't think that's what they're doing. You know what? I think in both sides of this deal, the only implication this has is for Cook. What's his first?
Cook.
James Cook.
Yeah.
This is the only implication I see. If you're a dynasty or keeper league holder of James Cook, I think you just took a hit because I think he's absolutely third in line now.
Yeah, he has to be.
Yeah, so I don't know. To me, this is really a nothing. Like you said, it's backup for backup. You just traded 2 backup running backs, 2 different rosters. I don't know that this does anything for either of them.
Yeah, I mean, now it means that
Change the scenery.
It means that Zach Moss isn't going to get a Super Bowl ring. That's what that means.
Actually, you're right.
That's what that means.
Yeah, true.
All right, those were the trades that happened. Let's talk about the trades that didn't happen and that were pretty surprising because we really thought that they were going to happen. First thing I want to talk about is Kareem Hunt. He is still in the Browns. He is still a Brown. Man, I really wanted him to go somewhere. I really wanted him to go somewhere where he would have been used because the Browns don't use him. He's great.
Do you think any of his previous history with the elevator incident or the hotel incident is playing into team still saying, no, we still recognize what you did and we want no part of you as a player, even though you've had a good track record since then?
I mean, maybe the thing... I could see the NFL doing this because they're doing this with, what's his name, Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick hasn't played a snap since that incident. And so,
the Browns as a team are willing to take it on. They're willing to take on any bad news player. I mean, they'll take on all the media heat. But, I just wonder because they gave him and his agent complete clearance to go work up any trade they could find.
Yeah.
The Browns said, dude, go. Have fun. Find what you can find, and they came back with nothing. Yeah, they approached however many NFL teams they approached, and they couldn't find a deal that worked. No one wanted them.
Yeah, I mean that's shocking. I feel
it is. That's extremely shocking. That's the only reason I can think as to why people wouldn't want him. He's 27. He's still young enough to have great production. He's shown what he can do when he's a stud back. There are teams out there who could use a running back, even if it's only a backup. But no one even said we're interested, and the only reason I can think of is that his past is biting him in the butt here.
Yep. I mean, I feel like this is now it was now or never. I feel like now. So I feel like he's not he's going to be 28 next year. I mean, that's the back half of his career, and so what are you going to trade for him?
He's a free agent this season. So maybe it's people knew that he was a free agent and there was no reason to pay when you can get him this offseason.
That's very true.
But, that's the only other thing I can think of right now because, you're right. If you were wanting a stud running back, this was the guy to get. He was the premier guy on the market right now if you needed a running back.
Right. Well, let's see if anything happens in the offseason. But, as of right now, Kareem Hunt is going to stay on the Browns for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next player that didn't move, which was surprising, and it was Brandon Cooks. Oh, the Cowboys were so close to getting him. They were really close to getting him, but they didn't make the deal happen. Ugh.
Did you hear the news that came out? He didn't even go to practice because it was so solidified that he was going to be dealt.
Oh man, I would have been livid if I were Brandon.
Yeah, he did not go to practice today on the Texans. He didn't even go because like that's how like locked up. Oh, you're going somewhere. No one knew where it was, but he was going somewhere.
Yeah.
Dude doesn't practice just so he doesn't get hurt and then doesn't get dealt. I mean, my goodness. And apparently they had a lot of people call for him.
Yeah, I mean, people wanted him. I mean, I feel like the Cowboys wanted him for sure. Like
Yeah,
they were really
we
close to
needed
getting him. Yeah, and so like I feel like. I mean, now, like, the Brandon Cooks is not going anywhere. I feel like he's just upset now.
Yeah,
I feel like he really wanted to get shipped out, and, like, he was, like, misled that he was going to move.
Yep.
But, I mean, it didn't happen, so...
Maybe they just wanted too much, and it was a thing of, we are not going to let him go unless you literally make it impossible for us to say no.
Yeah.
Like, that was the case.
Mm-hmm. Another stud that didn't get moved was Jerry Jeudy. This is kind of a sigh of relief because I feel like if Jerry Jeudy was going to move, I feel like the Broncos would have missed him greatly because they are using him way more than they are using Cortland Sutton right now. I feel like Russ would have missed him, and I feel like the whole offense would have missed him. But I mean, he's still on his rookie deal, right? So I mean, like it's one of those things where like you still got him, like you could still use him. So yeah, I think Jerry Jeudy's should. If the offense gets better with Bradley Chubb being gone, then I feel like Jerry Jeudy benefits being on the Broncos, actually. So.
I wonder if it was a one or the other situation for them. Like, it was either Bradley Chubb gets dealt or Jerry Jeudy gets dealt because they just traded all of their draft capital over to Seattle. They wanted to make up a little bit of draft capital.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, what deal benefits us as a team best? Had Miami backed out of that deal, do they pull the trigger on a Jerry Jeudy trade for a second-round pick somewhere?
Okay.
And to collect some capital back towards them?
Yeah.
I wonder if it was we don't need both these guys gone. We just need one of these guys to get a little draft capital. And this is where they recovered. And it was, we want to deal him first, and if not, Jeudy goes second.
I mean, yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, yeah.
But you don't need them both gone.
Yeah, you don't need them both gone. 'Cause then,
You're not in rebuild because you just spent all that money for Wilson, right?
Yeah.
So you want to just move one guy. You had Sutton as a backup. You have Randy Gregory as a backup. You have two expendable players, both young, talented. Ship one of them off, keep the other.
Yeah.
So I wonder where he would have gotten dealt if they couldn't make the Chubb deal come together. Mm-hmm. All speculation, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, for sure. All right, another offensive player that didn't get traded was Cam Akers, and we all thought this was happening because the Rams really wanted it to happen, and
yeah, they wanted him gone.
Nothing happened. So, like, I feel like Cam Akers, like, what is he going to do now? So, like, is he going to play? He's not going to play, I feel like. He's not going to play for the rest of the season, it feels like, because he's going to be on the Rams, and the Rams don't want to play him. So
yeah, it's not even his fault. He wants to play football.
Yeah,
they just don't like him as a player. It's similar to Antonio Gibson with Ron Rivera. Like, he's a good player, but they just don't want to play him. Now, you can't make the same argument for Cam Akers that he's a good player, but the guy wants to play football, and they're just not playing him, whether that's for injury concerns or production. Right. He's not getting playtime.
Right.
I honestly thought he was going to get dealt even for a fifth rounder or something really low.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, he's still a Ram, so the Rams really needed a running game. They really needed somebody. That's what I thought Kareem Hunt was going to go to the Rams. I really thought Kareem Hunt was going to go.
It's the most logical spot. Yeah.
And so that deal didn't happen. So the Rams, they don't have a running game. They're not going to have a running game. They didn't really even play Darrell Henderson this last week. Mm-hmm. Rivers had more opportunity than Darrell Henderson. So
yeah.
I don't know. Rams, they're not looking like they're going to. They don't look like they want to run the ball. They just want to keep giving it to Cooper Kupp. So.
I think this is panicking. I think their offensive line took, and I kind of said this at the beginning of the year, that their offensive line was going to take some major hits with their left tackle departing, and they had to do some reshuffling, and it's hurt them more than they thought they were going to. And I think what they're having to do is they panic anytime the run game starts to fail, and so they abandoned it completely.
Oh, yeah.
And it's showing. Like, you're right. They're just straight passing nonstop, it seems.
Yeah, for real. And it's not winning them the games. Like, they're not winning because of it.
No, yeah, it's looking really rough. As a unit, they are relying too heavily on Cooper Kupp alone, and they really need some other people to step up.
Yeah.
Especially in the run game, which is where Hunt could have really helped them out.
Exactly. All right, that was our trade segment. That was a insane amount of trades that went down today. Let's move on, though. Let's move on to our King of the Hill segment, and I really wanted to talk about this because me and you both took it down this week.
Oh,
baby!
yeah, let's go. I'm so mad Luis isn't here this week.
Man.
To rub it in his face that we both hit after him.
Yes, we both won. I picked A.J. Brown last week for my Prince of the Hill. And Colton picked Alvin Kamara for his running up the hill. So we both won, but we're both it's 2-1. It's 2-1-1. But yeah, let's start with the running backs first for Prince of the Hill, Colton. And I'll let you start with yours.
Sure. Yeah, my Prince of the Hill this week, running back, is going to be a guy who has done me dirty a million times. I will never draft him, but I'm going to pick him. It's Derrick Henry. Coming off an explosive game.
200 yards?
Yeah.
200 yards? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they had 2 or 3 touchdowns last week.
I think you had 2. Yeah, because if you would have had 3, you would have been the King of the Hill.
Either way, ridiculous production out of him. He is great. From what it seems, he's not skipping a beat, even with his crazy touches. So, heck, again, 32 touches last week, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. My only concern with him is there's 0 passing upside. I don't know if he beats anybody in PPR for that reason. Yeah. But for that reason, my running up the hill, I'm going to go with Travis Etienne, basically the polar opposite of him. Figured I'd go a guy who's just a downhill runner and a guy who's just a pass catcher, and we'll see who works out.
The young Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, let's go. I want to talk about my Prince of the Hill, and that is Austin Eckler coming off of a bye this week. It's going to be he's done it multiple weeks in a row. He's going up against the Falcons. It's not a scary matchup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see Austin Eckler just destroying this team,
feasting,
and just like breaking off for 2 70-yard plays.
And they need this as a team.
Yes.
They need this as a team to just go in and beat the hell out of the Falcons.
Yes.
And just show their dominance and put a foothold that they are still a contender in the AFC. And a stacked AFC.
Absolutely. I could see it happening too. Oh, you're making my mouth water. See it happening. All right, and for my running up the hill, it's going to be Devin Singletary. We were just talking about him. I mean, this is his week to prove it. Come on, Devin Singletary, and it's going up against the Jets. I feel like
Don't lose your spot.
Yeah, I know, right? Don't lose your spot. Come on, Devin, you got this. So I feel like it's one of those situations where the Jets aren't bad enough to where the Bills are going to blow them out, and I feel like when the Bills blow out teams, they don't use Devin Singletary. They keep passing the ball. They keep throwing it, and they use their backup, James Cook.
Yeah.
And so I feel like hopefully the Jets will keep a good amount of. They'll put up some points so that way that way Devin Singletary can be involved, because whenever he's involved, he's good. He is really good, and I don't understand why they don't use him more. But I mean, it's working with the pass, so I mean the pass is working. So
absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our wide receivers. Colton, you go first for your wide receiver.
Okay. I'm going to go with, for my Prince of the Hill, the most dynamic football offense in football at the moment, the Miami Dolphins, and I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Waddle had a great game last week, so did Hill, but I think Waddle edged him out. I think it's now Hill's turn to go absolutely nuclear. Tua throws it around everywhere. Time to go off.
Absolutely. Against the Bears, too. The Bears don't have a scary...
They just lost Quinn, and they lost Roquan Smith.
Yeah,
they just lost their two best defensive players. You have, I think, Jackson still, but that's about it. So I'm not worried about this team at all.
I feel like this could be a high scoring game if the Bears offense since the Bears offense is starting to get it going a little bit more. Yeah. I feel like this could be a high scoring game. So I could definitely see Tyreek. So here's the problem: Tua had 2 passes to Tyreek Hill that were wildly underthrown.
Yep.
And I hated it because if Patrick Mahomes was throwing those balls, it would have been easily to the house. He would have gotten them in stride.
House call.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Tyreek has it, but then he has to come back to grab the ball, and he's making these acrobatic catches. They look badass, but does Tua not have that arm strength that Patrick Mahomes had? I guess?
It's very rare for anyone to have Patrick Mahomes' arm strength. I mean, I kind of put his arm strength to like Drew Brees. I feel like he never, like Drew Brees didn't have a cannon arm, but he was incredibly accurate. Yeah. And I think we're starting to see the same with Tua, where his accuracy has been looking good each week. He's thrown less interceptions every week. But his arm talent, like he doesn't have a cannon bazooka like Allen or Mahomes. Like those, that was Favre back in the day. Yeah. So, we'll see. I do think what I wonder is how their chemistry will develop for Hill to learn and for Tua to learn to hit him in stride sooner. Yeah. So you can't make the 40, 50-yard throw, start hitting him at 30. Right. And does that make to where he can't get over the safety yet? Like there's a lot of implications, but I wonder if as their chemistry develops, they'll learn to find that stride just a little sooner than what he was able to with Patrick Mahomes. Right. So
it's just funny because like in those plays where he underthrew him, Tua was just giving it all for these throws.
It's everything. Yeah, he's putting everything into it. He just can't get
his whole
there.
Body into it. It was just like he looked like he was throwing it as hard as he could, and then it.
But 382 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah. So I mean, he's if they can keep that up, I mean, it's going to be amazing. So
for sure,
I love Tua this week, and for my running up the hill, I'm going to go with a bit of a home run shot. I think it's either it happens or he's miles off. I don't think there's really an in between, and it's Devin Duvernay. Yeah. I think he is becoming the guy. We talked about the Bateman injury, so I think if there's a time for him to come out and dominate, it could be this week. He came off a pretty good game last week. I think Lamar is starting to have trust in him as a receiver. He had a rushing touchdown last week, so he's utilized as sort of that Debo role as well. So I think it's, again, home run. He's either hitting it or he's way off, but I do like him to at least have the opportunity this week with the injury to Mark Andrews, with the injury to Bateman, with the injury to Gus Edwards. It's his time to at least have the chance to be that guy. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with those injuries. And no Marshawn Lattimore either. He's questionable right now, but I don't think we see him this week. I can definitely see Duvernay benefiting from that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's move on to my Prince of the Hill for wide receiver, and it's going to be Justin Jefferson this week. I like the matchup, and I feel like it's time for Justin Jefferson to get a receiving touchdown. Come on, against the Commanders.
Maybe 2.
Come on, against the Commanders, I think he's going to do it. If Adam Thielen misses, this should be a really good game for Justin Jefferson. So I could definitely see him benefiting.
Yeah, I like it. It's his time. You're right.
Yeah, so. I'm almost guaranteeing a touchdown from Justin Jefferson.
I actually like that too. I think there's pretty much no way he doesn't find the end zone because people have started to find that stat. Oh, he hasn't got a touchdown since week 1. Time to force feed him.
All right, and then for my running up the hill, I actually have T. Higgins here. T. Higgins, man, he's got to step it up because obviously he's playing that Jamar Chase role right now with Jamar Chase being out. I think he should have that role. I think he should benefit from that, and I think he should step up and be in that role. You saw Joe Burrow not do as well as he would with Jamar Chase on that team, and they're going up against the Carolina Panthers, one of the easiest matchups here. I can definitely see T. Higgins benefiting from this. I mean, just the Bengals wide receivers in general, I feel like need to step up now that Jamar Chase is gone. Because there's 2 great players, honestly. Like, they're 2 really good players.
Boyd's just as good as Higgins, really.
Yeah, Boyd is really good as well. So, they just need to – I feel like they need to find that rhythm. I mean, it's just 1 week so far, but I feel like this is where they get unleashed.
For sure. You have a week of practice to figure it out. I agree. I like the pick.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to our waivers, and I want to talk about this one first because he's still not picked up, and it's actually Devin Duvernay. It's your running up the hill pick.
Yeah.
He is still not rostered he's only rostered in 20% of leagues.
29%. Still incredibly low.
Yeah, it's still incredibly low. If you haven't picked up Devin Duvernay, go ahead and pick him up because he is a smash play this week, especially with Bateman being out. I think you can see production from him for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, honestly. Truly. Yeah, buy in week 10, but I think he's a good stash play. Yeah, easy move.
And especially if Mark Andrews doesn't play. Another guy to look for is actually Justin Fields. If you don't have a top quarterback right now, Justin Fields is starting to get it going, and that passing offense is starting to get unleashed. They're using him in the run more. I mean, he's deadly with his legs. Mm-hmm. They just got Chase Claypool over there. Everything points to the right direction for Justin Fields right now, and I feel like you could get him off of the waivers before anybody else does after this week.
Sure, absolutely. And only rostered in 26%, so great opportunity to grab him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another name that I want to bring up is Evan Ingram. He's still not picked up in that many leagues either, but Evan Ingram has proven himself to be a great addition on the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. They really just have Christian Kirk over there, and who's the other guy that I'm thinking of? Zay Jones? Zay Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
Zay Jones. But yeah, Evan Ingram has been a great addition for that offense as well, and that's where Trevor Lawrence likes to look for, with those dump passes, with those easy shots. I feel like Evan Ingram needs to be rostered. So
yeah, only rostered in 32% of leagues. I think he's a great pickup, especially with the iffy production you're getting out of tight end right now. Yeah. He just had a touchdown and gave you 14 points last week in half PPR scoring, so even more in PPR. Yes. I think this is a guy who is starting to put it together a little bit, and he's finding that chemistry with Lawrence. He had 6 targets last week, but the past 4 games has been 10 targets, 6, 7, and 6. That's great.
Consistent.
Yeah, you're starting to find that a little bit more, and now that you have ETN starting to get going, you have Kirk that could potentially work off. It works some space in the middle for him. So I think Evan Ingram is a great pickup, especially with all of these injuries that have been happening at the tight end position. Mm. He should be absolutely rostered.
Yeah, and especially going against Vegas this week.
Oh yeah, great matchup. Yeah, they just laid a goose egg. So.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, Vegas needs to do something. They're looking abysmal right now.
Yeah, really, really bad right now.
Derek Carr doesn't even look like he wants to play anymore.
No, yeah. They just, man, they spent all to go get that big name wide receiver, and, well, where did it get you?
I feel like both teams on that end are suffering now. The Packers are suffering, and so is Vegas.
Yep.
They're both
big time.
suffering right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, well, that's it for waivers. Anything else to add? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's about it.
We covered everything to go off of this week, everybody. I appreciate everybody for listening to this crazy trade session of halftime adjustments. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can reach out to us at halftime_ADJ on Twitter. We will see you guys next week. It's going to be another juicy week of fantasy football. I hope you guys win your leagues, and we will see you guys later.